It's Saturday night, and there's only one man who can stand up to tyranny. It's the Weekend Sit and Spin with your host, Nicholas O'Kelly.
That's right, you are listening to the Weekend Sit and Spin. I am your host, and what a Saturday night it is. Coming to you live here from Germany. Just had some fantastic sushi. You wouldn't think that there would be good sushi in an area that wasn't right beside of the ocean, but I have to say, it's very interesting. The largest Japanese population in all of Europe lives right here in Düsseldorf, where my wife and I are residing currently. And I have to say, the sushi is fantastic. Had a nice out. It's been hot it's been unbelievably hot this week. The thing is, Germany is on the same parallel, the same latitude as Canada. And so, especially coming from the south of the United States, I always assume that the further north you go, the cooler the climate is on the average. And that's been the case so far, up until this point. But about 2 weeks ago, it started warming up here, and this past week, it has warmed up to an extreme level. Now, normally, this wouldn't be such a big deal. In Charleston, where I live, normally, it's very hot all the time. If you're used to South Carolina, Georgia, Florida area, then you understand what I'm talking about. It's Charleston can get up, especially in the month of July and even August, 100 degrees, 105 degrees, 100% humidity is normal. And normally I say I love it. I do like warm weather. This is not something that I dislike at all. I always say that it helps keep you healthy more. I don't like the cold because you end up getting sick more often. The difference is, in the south of the United States, we have air conditioning. In Germany, there is no air conditioning. I don't know how these guys do it, I'll be very honest. They have radiators for heat, which during the winter I enjoyed. It was really a different way, a different concept, I suppose, when you think about heating your building. I'm so used to central heat and air. I guess I'm spoiled. I mean, let's just put it that way. I'm a spoiled person when it comes to central air because I've had it my entire life. I've never had to live without it or try to fathom what it was like. I think I like the radiators better, to be very honest. When you turn on the heat during the winter with central air, it always smells funny, number one, because it hasn't ran for so long. I almost always get I don't get sick like the flu or something, but I get like an allergy sickness, like a hay fever, when we have to turn on the heat in our house normally. So I did enjoy the winter here not having to deal with that, because when you have the central heat, it just kind of blows the air all the time. It never really absorbs the heat into the house because the way the houses are built, it's a very different concept here. The houses are built with different materials. They're built with the idea of absorbing and retaining heat and cool air more than our homes are built in the United States, or at least the way they're built now. And so whenever you turn the radiator on, actually it gets very, very hot. We found out during the winter in these houses. You run that radiator for, 30 minutes or so, and then all of a sudden your house is totally warm and you have to turn the thing off again, which is pretty nice because obviously that helps with the electricity, with the radiator, not with electricity so much. That's more of the gas or the oil or whatever. But in general, talking about the utility prices, it brings it down when you don't run the central air all the time. It's a totally different story during the summer because the only way to get any cool air, and they also don't really believe in ceiling fans here. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm really getting a cultural education living over here. I'm not against it, totally for it, love the idea of being able to see how other people live. I have to say it makes me appreciate my way of life that much more because they don't believe in ceiling fans. I don't know that I have seen a ceiling fan in any place that I've been in, period. I've been in some of my colleagues' homes. I've been in many different restaurants and stores. I mean, we have ceiling fans in basically every building throughout Charleston. I'm sure that that's the case in most of the United States. I've lived in 2 different states. I've visited many different states in the U.S. My family is scattered all around, so I've been a lot of places, seen a lot of sights in the United States, and just about everywhere you go, there is a ceiling fan because we like our circulated air. They don't have that here. It's very strange, and I don't know how they do it. So, needless to say, we've really had to get used to life here, and this summer has been something of a shock. I mean, this whole week, and I don't mean to just moan and groan about this, I just thought I'd open the show with it because, yeah, it's interesting. Let me know what you think. I got the chat box here on Spreaker.com that you can send me a message. You can also call the show 854-888-6205, 854-888-6205. What are your experiences with Central Air? I think in the northern part of the U.S., they probably have a similar situation as what we're dealing with here. Probably more radiators. Maybe some buildings, like for example, in New York City, don't have air conditioning. I don't know. I haven't lived there. I have a friend who's lived there. Maybe he can give me his insight. But the only way to get cool in the house now, I mean, this whole week has been 90-plus degrees, 90, 95, almost every single day. And the other problem with that, and it's only, I mean, it is now cool. Today is the first day in literally 7 days that it has cooled off. It's cloudy. It's rained a little bit, so it's finally backed off on the heat. And the part of the problem with it being so hot is that being this far north, you also have the sun coming up earlier in the day. I mean, the sun comes up at like 4:30 in the morning, and it doesn't go down. Right now, it is 9:45 at night here in Deutschland, and the sun is still up. It looks like in the U.S. it's about 7 o'clock. That's what it looks like outside. So we will have actual dark at about 11 tonight. Really wild. Very interesting. We took the cruise. I talked about this last week on the show. We took the cruise to the Baltic Sea and went to Sweden. And the sun came up at like 2:30 in the morning. And it didn't go down till after midnight. Really wild. That's really hard for me to get used to. And I'm not sure if anywhere in the United States really has that situation going on because we are so much further north. We're Canada area, so very interesting. But because the sun's up so much longer, it heats everything up for longer during the day. And the only way to get it cool is to open your windows. We've had to buy several floor fans, not very expensive ones, but you know the kind that oscillate. And they sit on 4 legs. We've got about 4 of those spread out throughout our house. So we open all the windows and we run the fans. But in this heat this week, you can't even open the windows because it's hotter outside. And when you open the windows, it really lets in even more heat. So it's been really something. So today, for the first time in a week, we've been able to go outside, enjoy the cooler weather, and we decided to go get some sushi. It was absolutely fantastic. Now, that's my opening monologue that means nothing politically, but nevertheless, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you've joined us. We've got a week's worth of news to go through, and I've got a stack of stuff here. It's really, really something. Starting back on Monday, we found out that Jared Kushner was heading to the Middle East. Now, I still don't know a whole lot about this guy, other than somehow he snagged Ivanka Trump. I guess he's rich, some kind of a hedge fund child. I mean, you know, I don't want to go off on this guy too much, but to be very honest, I don't know a lot about him. And my question is, what does he think? I mean, the Wall Street Journal had the headline, Jared Kushner to travel to Middle East in effort to advance U.S. peace efforts. Trump went and gave an astounding speech weeks ago. He visited Tel Aviv. He visited several different states in the Middle East, or countries, I mean. This was, of course, right before the terror attack that happened in Britain at the pop concert, when he was basically saying to the Middle Eastern leaders that they needed to drive the terrorism out, that they needed to take more proactive action. And as far as I could tell, reading the analysis, seeing the speech itself, watching the expressions on the people's faces he gave it, they were willing to work with Trump. They took it better than I expected when they were talking about this. So he, in my opinion, made some good steps forward as far as peace in the Middle East. Of course, though, we saw at that time how they were talking about a peace agreement might be very close, and that Trump had made drastic steps forward between Israel and Saudi Arabia in particular. But nevertheless, they were talking in the news about how quickly we would see something happen, and until now, we've seen nothing. Centuries this has gone on. Years and years and years, decades, the U.S. has tried to get involved in somehow bringing peace to the Middle East. Listen, it's a closed concept. Forget about it. There's not going to be peace in the Middle East. This is biblical. This is a territorial war that's been going on for, decades and centuries. I mean, it's not going to change just because Donald Trump is a good negotiator. I have full faith in Donald Trump. I believe in his ability to negotiate and work with foreign leaders. I like what we saw from his first international travel. I'm not at all, have not lost any faith in Trump. Any of this criticism or Russia investigation crap aside, I have 100%, I maintain my full faith in Donald Trump. I do not, however, have any faith in Jared Kushner. I don't know this guy. And of course, all the media talks about how he is a advisor to Trump. I don't really know. What's he advising him on? I mean, Trump gave a great speech in Iowa just the other night, really trying to rally the troops, talking about the work he's doing and how he's focusing on the economy. And he talked about how he wanted to get he has the head of Goldman Sachs working with the Treasury, and how he would rather leave rich people in these positions because wouldn't we rather have somebody who's been successful, who has a lot of money, maintain these positions in government, because clearly they bring something to the table that someone who doesn't have that much money can. And somehow I agree with that. I mean, okay, when I think about it, would I want to be a Treasury Secretary? Would I want to be in these type of roles in government? No, not at all. But what would anybody think? Let's just say, for example, that I was in that position. Would anybody listen to me? Would anybody have respect for me? I mean, I have a lot of problems with Goldman Sachs. Of course, they have a lot of issues in their own right. But nevertheless, this guy is successful. He's made a lot of money. It's like Trump. I mean, people say, well, we can't relate to him. No, I can relate to Trump because, okay, maybe he did start out with rich parents or whatever, but he can't help where he came from. The fact is, he took a loan from his father and turned it into $1 billion empire. He didn't go into government and expand his fortunes off of taxpayer dollars and then start working to increase taxes on the middle class, give away welfare to illegal immigrants, and basically forget about the American people, like what Nancy Pelosi has done, like what Hillary Clinton has done. I mean, think about Nancy Pelosi for a second. When you're comparing whether or not you can relate to a Trump in comparison to whether or not you can relate to a Nancy Pelosi, can you relate to Nancy Pelosi? I mean, this woman, first of all, she's out of her mind, and we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight, because now the Democrats are even turning on her, which is hilarious to me, because she's been bumbling around on stage since before the election. She still thinks that George W. Bush is in office. I mean, there's more than 10 instances on national television where she's named George Bush as the president rather than Trump, or even Obama back right before the election. I mean, this lady needs to go. But if any investigations need to be done into anybody in Washington, maybe with the exception of Hillary Clinton, I think they should be starting with Nancy Pelosi and her fortunes. How did she make those fortunes? What kind of backhanded nepotism deals have been... by the way, her daughter, same deal. It's like Joe Biden's son being put on the board of the oil company in the Middle East. This is the swamp. This is the corruption. So let's do an investigation into Nancy Pelosi. Find out exactly what's been going on to increase her fortunes. I can relate to Trump because the guy is an actual businessman. He's been working in the private sector his whole life. He doesn't feed off of taxpayer dollars like a vampire. And that's the big difference for me. I'm getting away from the point. My original point was that I don't know what Kushner is advising this guy on. He's a child, in my opinion. I mean, that's like having Ivanka in the office. I understand that the people relate to her because she's, well, not the people. I guess I should say the liberals. Really, it's the left. And maybe that's what it's all about. Ivanka and Kushner bring to the table a pathway into the hearts and minds of the liberal left, okay? She's already been spouting her mouth off about letting more immigrants in and so forth, and maybe that's what it's all about. Nevertheless, Kushner's in the Middle East right now. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what he thinks he can do that decades worth of U.S. politicians and peacekeepers have been trying to do and have been unsuccessful at. I'm not sure why he thinks he's any better, but in my opinion, Mr. Trump, can we get rid of Jared Kushner? What happened to Steve Bannon? I like this guy. He's a bit like a bull in a china shop, but at least he has some political prowess. At least he understands media. Jared Kushner, and that's why it was rumored, at least. It's still never really been confirmed. But it was rumored that the reason Steve Bannon has kind of stepped to the side, is because he couldn't get along with Jared Kushner. And I believe it. I mean, this guy to me seems like a bit of a magoo, as Jim Carrey once said. Moving on from there, we've got also that happened this past Monday, Apple, Amazon CEOs to the White House as Kushner initiative gets underway. Another article about Jared Kushner here. Apple CEO Tim Cook, this is from thehill.com, and Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos will be among the business leaders at the White House on Monday as the internal think tank led by President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, begins the long process of modernizing the government's information technology systems. Now, the very interesting thing that has come out is after this meeting, these guys, Tim Cook, Jeff Bezos, came out praising Trump's administration, almost as if they have chosen their side. Now the White House is going to get a full technological update. We can continue reading a little bit here. It says, over the past 2 weeks, the administration's focus on infrastructure and workforce development were swamped by former FBI Director James Comey's testimony before the Senate and the battle lines drawn between the White House and the special counsel overseeing a broad investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 election. This, by the way, and we'll get to this in a few minutes, has been also pushed aside by the Democrats because there's no evidence. There's no reason to even continue this conversation. It's stupid, okay? You're not going to get anywhere. You're going to get no ground, no traction with this because the people are beyond it. We don't believe it. Forget about it. I don't believe that he meddled or colluded with Russia, okay? I mean, it's the president's job to talk to the Russian ambassador, to talk to all ambassadors. I don't really care if he talked to him. I don't want to go to war with Russia. And Russia, in my opinion, you can watch the Showtime documentary that came out with Putin. I don't believe that he wants to go to war with America either, but it seems that the Washington swamp is making it very difficult for him to make that a decision. It's almost like it's out of the hands of Trump and Putin. The liberal left and even the Rhino Republicans want war, like John McCain. I mean, of course, he's the spokesman. He's the mouthpiece of the military-industrial complex, always has been. And they're pushing, and they're pushing, and they're pushing for war with Russia. Although now there's some escalation as well because of the situation that happened this week in Syria, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Trump and Vice President Pence will swing by the working sessions on Monday. Kushner, his wife Ivanka Trump, and most of Trump's senior aides and advisors will participate. So too will Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, Homeland Security, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, the presence of Cook and Bezos could make for some interesting dynamics. Of course, considering last year Trump called for a boycott of Apple products after they refused to help federal authorities hack an iPhone. Glad that didn't go through. Anyway, we're going to get a technological overhaul of the White House. I think it's, it's a good thing. But nevertheless, it seems like Silicon Valley has chosen their sides, all with the exception of Facebook, of course, and Mark Zuckerberg. What's very interesting about him is he has been actively snubbing the White House, and it seems now that might actually come back to bite him. Because now he's got issues that he may need help from the White House on. I'm trying to find this article here. And here it is, from CNBC. Zuckerberg's snub of Trump could backfire. Another globalist who wants power. It says the Facebook CEO could either go to Washington to meet with President Donald Trump, along with nearly every other marquee CEO from the tech industry, or skip it and prepare for a Chicago rally for people who'd created social support groups on Facebook. Zuckerberg, who loudly criticized Trump's decision to withdraw from the Paris Climate Accords early in June, chose the latter. Facebook was alone among the 5 most valuable U.S. tech firms in the U.S. Let's see. At the same meeting, a top official from Facebook's chief rival, Alphabet chairman Eric Schmidt, sat at the table with Trump and praised the Trump's pro-business agenda, saying it would create big opportunities for U.S. firms. The contrast between the two companies, which together dominate digital advertising, is stark when it comes to U.S. government relations. Let's see. Zuckerberg's choice surely played well with the Facebook rank and file and with users who oppose Trump politically. Whether it was good for Facebook shareholders or risk relegating the company to a position behind Google and a line for the president's ear is less certain. So that's really the question now. Now that the lines have been drawn with all the other tech CEOs, will Facebook come up short-handed? I still don't really understand what Facebook does. I mean, I understand they're trying to get into the television market, the digital media kind of thing or whatever. I haven't seen that yet, though. I mean, at the end of the day, Facebook is a news feed and a way to connect to people. So I still don't really understand that concept. But I wanted to get into another issue that happened this week, also from Amazon, or Jeff Bezos. Speaking of him, by the way. They've merged, or bought up, I should say, Whole Foods as the new masters of the universe plunder America. It's coming from the Daily Beast. With his $13.7 billion acquisition of Whole Foods, Amazon's Jeff Bezos has made clear his determination to dominate every facet of mass retailing, likely at the cost of massive layoffs in the $800 billion supermarket sector. And it's a whole slew of articles I have here now about this. They're talking about robots replacing workers in Whole Foods. A big question for me is whether or not this should begin the conversation of breaking up some of these monopolies. I mean, we know that can we call Microsoft and Apple monopolies? It's hard to say because there is still competition, but Amazon is really buying up many different market sectors, and that is definitely grounds for discussion on whether or not to break up such a large company. I mean, we're starting to talk about a company that's going to end up being its own country pretty soon. The Daily Beast continues, but this, if anything, understates the ambitions of America's new ruling class, almost entirely based in San Francisco and Seattle, as it moves to take over industries from entertainment and transportation to energy and space exploration that once thrived and completed outside the reach of the oligarchy. Brandeis posed his choice at a time when industrial moguls and allied Wall Street financiers dominated the American economy. Like the oligarchs of the past, today's new masters of the universe are reshaping our society in ways that could, if unchallenged, undermine the foundations of our middle-class republic. The new oligarchy has amassed wealth that would impress the likes of J.P. Morgan. Bezos' net worth is a remarkable $84.7 billion. Can you imagine? The Whole Foods acquisition makes him the world's second richest man, up from the third richest last year. His $600 million gain in Amazon stock from the purchase is more than the combined winnings of Whole Foods' 10 top shareholders. Unbelievable. So, what does this mean for Amazon? I mean, obviously, it's good news for their stock prices, which, by the way, this also happened on the exact same day, according to CNBC, that stocks hit a record high once again. They want to talk about Trump being toxic, but yet the stocks tell a different story. Dow and S&P 500 close at records as tech stocks surge. Also lifting investor sentiment were the results from the French parliamentary election, which ended with Macron's party clinching a majority. Nevertheless, the broader market is making money like never before. So should we break up Amazon? I think it's a good question. I mean, now they're already working on drone delivery. They're already one of the fastest delivery services that you can get in terms of products to your home. They're overtaking Walmart in the retail sector. Walmart had already destroyed the economy. Now it looks like, or should I say, Walmart had already destroyed the retail sector. Amazon looks to be destroying our entire economy. I mean, they're just going to buy up every single reason that you have to leave your house and go shop for anything. I mean, now you can shop for your groceries from Amazon. Soon there's going to be drones delivering this stuff to your house. You don't need to go anywhere. This is really unbelievable. And I have to say it for myself. I shop Amazon all the time. I have a Prime account here with Amazon.de. There's a lot of products that we use, from toiletries to my shoes. I like to wear Skechers. I like Skechers shoes. For me, they give pretty fantastic support. We'll give a little plug here for Skechers. They're great shoes. I'm very hard on my shoes. I have a hard time really understanding why that is. I have some back issues, and it makes me walk in kind of a strange way. It's been this way basically my entire life. So I have a strange gait, and my left leg really hits harder on the ground than my right leg. And so I'm just very rough on my shoes. And I know this. It's always been this way. When I was growing up, I only wore Nikes. The New Balance craze, if you're a kid of the 90s like I was, you remember there was a New Balance craze sometime around, I don't know, it started in 94, 95 maybe, went through early 2000s. Everybody had the New Balance shoes, and the numbers actually meant something to people. The kids, you know. It was like a fashion craze for us. I have the 353. I've got the 182. Oh, really? Because I got the 950 or whatever. I never even knew. All my friends knew exactly which number New Balance shoes they were wearing, and I thought to myself, I have no idea what these guys are talking about. To me, the different numbers, at one point in my life, I thought that the higher the number that you had, the cooler it would be. But then I started finding that the numbers really had no action. They were arbitrary. It was almost like they just picked them out of the sky. And so it didn't really matter which ones you wore. I had a couple of pairs of New Balances, but yeah, I never really cared for them. I wore Nike. But then, at some point, I guess maybe in high school, which is kind of funny because I remember the commercial growing up very well. If you watched Nickelodeon growing up, I mean, every Nickelodeon game show was sponsored by Skechers, and they all had the commercial that said, you know, it's the S, right? And a lot of the prizes that you could win would include some sort of a Skechers pack or whatever. Anyway, at some point later in life, even though they were probably the most popular when I was younger, I discovered Skechers, and I realized these were the most comfortable shoes I had, and that's what I liked. You can't find them here. They don't exist. It's really funny. There's Vans stores everywhere, which I find very interesting. There's even Carhartt stores here in Germany, as if the Germans really understand what... I mean, the Carhartt clothes line is really for, farmers and, I don't know, cowboys, Texas ranchers. I mean, it's a very distinct line of clothing, and I don't see a lot of cattle ranchers here in Germany. I guess they exist somewhere. They don't have a lot of beef, though. Mostly pork here. I'm getting off the subject. They've got Carhartt. They've got Lee jeans. They've got Vans shoes. But you can't find Skechers anywhere. So where do I find them? Well, I find them on Amazon. And it's like that for a lot of products because we're here, we're living here. It's a cost of fortune to have something shipped from home. We've had actually our family do it on a couple of occasions where they've sent us items that we were missing. It was very expensive. I got the new iPhone, the iPhone 7, a few months ago. Actually, it was late last year. And my dad mailed it to me because I had ordered it before I left the U.S. and it didn't arrive before I left. So it arrived basically right after I came here to Germany. I had my dad mail it to me. It cost him something like $60 or $70 to mail the box. A very small box, by the way. I mean, it was just the iPhone and a couple of other things in there. It wasn't anything major. It cost like $60, $70 to mail this box to Germany. That was his cost. And then when I went to pick it up, because it had the iPhone in there, I had to pay import taxes on it. So I think it cost me another €90 to pick this thing up. All in all, I mean, it was like $150 just to get that thing shipped. Of course, that's a special situation because it's the iPhone, but every time our family has had to ship us something, it's been between $50 and $70 to ship it over. So, unbelievable. So, we buy a lot of products on Amazon. And to me, this at some point, you reach the danger zone where everyone is ordering from Amazon. It's even been a joke on South Park that the UPS man, because the wives are ordering from Amazon all the time, that the UPS man is after their moms. You can go watch the episode for more information on that. But it's even a joke at this point with how much people shop in Amazon. And that's the question. With such a large company owning so many different sectors of retail and products, at what point does the government step in? Because we have antitrust laws. That's why I don't really understand how the companies like Google are even allowed to operate. I mean, I guess it's simply because Google is very careful about the types of companies and markets that they have a hold over. I suppose they have just enough of a market share that it's not enough to be a monopoly. I'm not really sure how that works. Because in my opinion, there's several different companies that need to be investigated for breaking these antitrust laws. But anyway, Amazon clearly, with the purchase of Whole Foods, seems to have stepped over the line. And my question is, what does that mean? I told you I had a couple of other articles. Workers to be replaced with robots. This is from The Sun magazine, or The Sun newspaper in the UK. Bought of the queue, will Amazon replace Whole Foods workers with robots? Online retail giant feared to be planning jobs cuts as shop chain. The move is part of Amazon's strategy for Whole Foods to sell to middle and lower income consumers. Amazon may be seeking to make the high-end grocer more competitive with Walmart and other mass-market retailers in the U.S. An Amazon spokesman denied that job cuts are in the works for Whole Foods. Technology will replace the cashier jobs at Whole Foods using sensor technology that's being pioneered at the experimental Amazon Go store concept in Seattle, according to the report. In February, a source told the New York Post that, quote, Amazon will utilize technology to minimize labor at new machine-automated supermarkets that could operate with as few as 3 employees. Can you believe that? Wow. Machine automated supermarket. 3 employees. Can you imagine the kind of nightmare that would be? This would be like hell on earth. Imagine Walmart at Christmas time. When you show up and you literally have lines at the cash register lined around the building and only 3 cash registers open. This is what I imagine with a fully automated supermarket. Amazon hopes that the move will help differentiate Whole Foods from other grocers. I mean, basically, Whole Foods already differs quite a lot from other grocery stores. You know, my favorite grocery store is Harris Teeter. Comes out of Charlotte. Did you know that? I like Harris Teeter quite a bit. I also like Publix. This is another one that I've grown to enjoy. But Whole Foods, it's too expensive. It's like Trader Joe's. Yeah, they have some great products. I'm into the organic thing. I like it. But I just can't afford to shop there on a regular basis. I find that the Publix, the Harris Teeters, have a very high quality product, but they're not totally out of my price range. Whole Foods seems to be on the other end of that. FastCompany.com is the one that proposed this week. It's time to break up Amazon. With its mega acquisition of Whole Foods, the retail behemoth moves to suck the value out of yet another market. The story, Amazon, quote, just bought Whole Foods. It's over the world. And that's from the writer of this article's friend that texted him. The author says, this unease is widespread and has raised new calls for breaking up Jeff Bezos' impending monopoly by force. Surely the company, which now generates 30% of all online and offline retail sales growth in the U.S., and also already controls 40% of internet cloud services, has reached too far. Can you believe that? I mean, think about these numbers for a second. The retail industry in the U.S. has been dying for a long time. Walmart is a big reason for that, by the way. I worked at Radio Shack during high school, during college, for a short period of time after college. And one of the reasons that I left was partially because of the pay structure. They changed it. Used to could make a lot more commission. But there wasn't anything to give commission on anymore. That's one of the reasons why they had to change the pay structure. I mean, I can't believe Radio Shack, to be very honest, is still open. I used to love Radio Shack, but I could see it during my tenure that the quality of the products was dying, that the company itself was really kind of selling itself out, kind of gutting itself, losing its target market. And this has been happening across the retail industry, not just Radio Shack. A lot of that has to do with the fact that people realized that Walmart had more to choose from, cheaper prices. Of course, the quality is quite a bit worse than other retails, in my opinion, but nevertheless, people chose based on what they had money for. Of course, that also goes to show exactly what the middle class has been doing for some time in America. They've been dying out. It's a very unfortunate situation. But now, Amazon generates 30% of all online and offline retail sales. Wow. And 40% of internet cloud services. That's wild. It says the 3% hike in Amazon's share price since the announcement, which would alone more than pay for the acquisition of Whole Foods, may attest less to the deal's appropriateness than to investors' growing fear that missing out on Amazon means missing out on the future of the company. Whatever you may think of Jeff Bezos and whether or not antitrust regulations can justifiably be applied to a company whose expansion doesn't raise but actually lowers costs for end consumers may be beside the point. Many of us get that something is amiss, but are ourselves so deeply enmeshed in the logic of last century's version of free market industrial capitalism that we can't quite bring ourselves to call this out for the threat it poses to our markets, our economy, and even our planet. It's very interesting. I'm going to read another paragraph. The reason why monopolies were broken up in an industrial economy was that they tended to gain control over the platforms through which their products were distributed. The biggest oil company ends up controlling shipping and refineries. The biggest airline controls too many gates. and the biggest phone companies control the wires, but in a digital economy, the platform is the business. Netflix content sells its platform. Apple's devices sell its supposed ecosystems. Amazon's book business, like Uber's cab business, was just an easy foothold. The low-hanging fruit of an existing but inefficient marketplace, through which to establish a platform monopoly. From that beachhead, the company then pivots to other verticals. The problem is, when an existing market is merely means to another end, the company doesn't consider the long-term effects of its action. Very interesting, and I'd almost forgot about, Amazon's book industry is pretty awesome. I'm writing my book right now to sell on Amazon. That's what I'm saying. We're all very much enthralled with Amazon and don't even realize it. All right, I need to move on, though, from Amazon. Something else very interesting that happened this week was the House race in Georgia. I don't know if you got a chance to see this, but it was the most expensive House race ever in our political history. Sandy Springs, Georgia. The Democrats got behind this guy, Jon Ossoff. And, we're talking celebrity endorsement. We're talking about Nancy Pelosi running around, going nuts, trying to talk about how great this guy... the guy, I think he's 27 or 28 years old. He's very young, which, like Macron, how could he possibly have the experience needed to be a viable candidate? It was really strange watching the Democrats, very, in my opinion, pathetic, watching them get behind this guy, trying to push for this, talking about how it was the race to end all races. This was going to be some kind of a stand-up against Trump, that he was going to get elected over a Republican in a district that had historically been Republican. The media onslaught was unbelievable for Jon Ossoff. I've never even heard of this guy, and yet he somehow, I think he's a writer or something for Hollywood, or he's written some scripts. I don't know. But somehow we had actual Hollywood celebrities endorsing this guy. I've never seen anything like it. And Trump got up behind the Republican, Karen Handel, and basically started endorsing her on Twitter, talking about how she was the one, she had the most experience, and she won. Karen Handel won handily. It was really embarrassing. This was a big embarrassment for the Democrats. The Washington Post has the story, Trump's agenda on the line in a hard-fought Georgia House race from Sandy Springs, Georgia. President Trump faces a high-stakes political test Tuesday in a special congressional election that has turned into a referendum on his leadership and could have significant consequences for his stalled agenda on Capitol Hill. This is the Washington Post. A rag in itself. And you can hear already the spin coming from this. On the eve of the vote, which I'll go ahead and give you a spoiler alert in case you didn't watch the news this week. This is coming from Tuesday morning when this article came out. Okay, Jon Ossoff lost. Karen Handel won. Very, very easily. It was embarrassing, but I'm just reading an old article here to kind of set it up. That's what I do on this show. I review the news of the week. On the eve of the vote to fill a House seat in Georgia's 6th congressional district, Trump acknowledged that a Republican defeat in the district, which the party has held for nearly 4 decades, could have wide implication. Quote, the Dems want to stop tax cuts, good health care, and border security. Their Obamacare is dead with 100% increases in P's. Vote now for Karen H., the president tweeted, referring to Karen Handel. Handel is a former Georgia Secretary of State, was locked in a tight battle against Jon Ossoff, a 30-year-old. He's 30 years old. He's my age. First-time candidate who lives just outside the district boundary. This was the other scandal of this thing. He didn't even live in the 6th district of Georgia. How crazy is this? What kind of world are we living in? The Democrat, and this just, in my opinion, goes to show how desperate these Democrats have gotten. And this is what's left now, or led now, to the whole issue with Nancy Pelosi. I mean, she, at this point, they are talking about ousting her. And her people are having to start trying to drum up support for her because they want her gone. Because, I mean, like I said, she's a bumbling idiot. That's part of the problem. But she's been in for so long. She's gotten so much money off of taxpayers. She's so far beyond being relatable to the American people that it's time for her to go. Trump actually said this week that he hopes she stays where she is because she's so detrimental to the Democratic Party that it's a good thing for the Republicans. So she may as well stay in position. But this is the problem. Getting behind someone like John Ossoff, what exactly is the strategy for the Democrats right now? What is their message? And that's why Nancy Pelosi is feeling the pressure this week, so to speak. The Hill has an article, and this happened because of this election with John Ossoff. She was out leading the Democrats to vote for this guy who didn't even live in the district. I mean, who thought that he was going to win this election? Can you raise your hand and let me know if you believed that he was going to win this election? Because I'm here to tell you, you have detention, you're crazy, okay? Because he doesn't live in the district. We're talking about a southern state. For 4 decades, it's been held by Republicans. And somehow, Hollywood coming out is going to get this guy elected. Nancy Pelosi is going to get this guy elected. I mean, the people that follow these Democrats into battle are so brainwashed and just dumb. I mean, I hate to say that because it's not a very good argument from my case to say they're so dumb. But seriously, is this the best we can do? What is your message, Democrats? I'd like to know. What is it? Because the Russia thing isn't working anymore. We, the people, are tired of it. And I say that as a Republican, okay, conservative, more or less a libertarian, but nevertheless, as a conservative American, I say that. But it's not just me saying that from my conservative side. It's me saying it from just a common sense perspective. We're tired of your push on Trump. We're ready for you to let him get to work and stop this Russia collusion nonsense. It seems like that's all the left has, is attacking Trump, like Stephen Colbert. What happens when Trump actually starts getting to work and doing good, and more than 50% of America approves of him, which his approval rating is now hovering between 45 and 50%? What happens when it hits 60%, I ask you? Is Colbert out of a job at that point? Because, and Rachel Maddow is the same way. The only things they do is bash Trump. Even during the Obama years on this radio program, I didn't just bash Obama. I mean, there's lots of news to talk about all the time. We still have lots of news. I did bash Obama. I've still got some bashing to do for him, by the way. He's back on the campaign trail this week, just before he takes a nice, long, deserved, quote-unquote, vacation in Indonesia with his quote-unquote family. And Pelosi said to the critics this week, "I think I'm worth the trouble." This was a pretty funny interchange where she got up on TV and tried to to defend herself, because she knew, she can feel it. She can feel that the knives are out. The Democrats smell blood. They're ready to get rid of her. I think it's long overdue, in my opinion. She has plenty of money. I don't know why she's still in office. What's she doing there? That's what's so strange to me about career politicians. I constantly talk about this. But what benefit do we get out of career politicians anymore? They stay in office for so long. So what does that really mean? It means they have clout on the congressional floor that they can make negotiations to get bills passed. But I'd like to ask the constituents of Nancy Pelosi, the constituents of John McCain, maybe the people over in Arizona want to go to war with Russia, and that's why John McCain stays in office. Maybe that's what's going on. I highly doubt it. But I'd like to ask those people, are you getting anything out of Nancy Pelosi? And John McCain, are you seeing bills being passed that are benefiting your community? Because I would wager no. I think people have become so numb to the election process that we've almost forgotten why we do it. And that's leading to this issue where we have politicians staying in office for far too long. I mean, when she's talking about George Bush still in office, then I think, Nancy, it's time to close up shop and head to the loony bin. Okay, let's check her into a luxurious retirement community. 55 and over, please, because I think that she's gone batch crazy. Okay, I mean, seriously. Representative Nancy Pelosi delivered a defiant message on Thursday to those Democrats calling for her ouster following a string of special election defeats. Bring it on, she says. Quote, when it comes to personal ambition and having fun on TV, have your fun, Pelosi said during a press briefing in the Capitol, referring to her detractors making the cable news rounds. She says, quote, I love the arena, I thrive on competition, and I welcome the discussion, but I am honored by the support. A number of Democrats, most of them younger members, had tried to oust Pelosi last year after Trump won the White House, and those lawmakers have revived that effort following the special election in Georgia, where Democrat John Ossoff was defeated by Karen Handel in the most expensive House race in the nation's history. Pelosi's critics said the outcome was just the latest evidence that her place at the top of the party is a liability as the Democrats seek to pick up the conservative-leaning seats they'll need to win back the majority in 2018. Of course, she's a San Francisco liberal, and she's also despised by the right, has long been the subject of GOP attack ads on Democratic candidates, and the Georgia race was absolutely no exception. And the other funny thing about the Democrats now turning on Pelosi is that they're also pushing to stop talking about Russia. Because, like I said, I think that they're not all stupid, okay? I mean, the Democrats, a lot of them are very smart. Good. I mean, they're not bad people. Not all of them, anyway. I mean, I think the liberal agenda is one that is very self-destructive in many ways. I think that they all kind of band together, and that sort of masks a lot of the individual common sense type people that are in the Democratic Party, but I don't think that they're all overly bad or anything. I talk about the liberal left all the time as kind of a conglomerate, and I don't think that's totally fair. But I think that they all at this point can see together that Nancy Pelosi she's not working out, she's not a good leader, but also that this Russia collusion topic is done. I mean, like I said earlier, the American people are done with it. We're tired of hearing it. This also comes from The Hill. Frustrated Democrats hoping to elevate their election fortunes have resounding message for party leaders. Stop talking so much about Russia. Democratic leaders have been beating the drum this year over the ongoing probes into the Trump administration's potential ties to Moscow, taking every opportunity to highlight the saga and forcing floor votes designed to uncover any business dealings the president might have had with Russian figures. But rank-and-file Democrats say the Russia-Trump narrative is simply a non-issue with district voters who are much more worried about bread-and-butter economic concerns like jobs, wages, and the cost of education and health care. And I totally agree with that. And that's why, in my opinion, I don't understand why they won't let Trump simply get to work. I mean, what they're worried about, they just admitted it here in The Hill, that the Democrats say that their constituents are worried about jobs, taxes, and health care. These are the top priorities on Trump's agenda. So why not simply let him get to work? I don't understand. I'm sorry. I don't get it. And I think that this is leading right now to the embarrassment and the downfall of the liberal left, and they're going to have to make a change. They're going to have to get on message. In my opinion, they just need to shut their mouths, get on board with the Trump train, and, choo-choo, let's make our way to economic prosperity. Once again, let's make America great again together. And I don't really understand why they're so against that. All right, the question now is, why are the tensions being ratcheted up between Russia and America now over Syria? This past week, blasted out of the sky, U.S. fighter jets shoot down Iran-made Syrian drone after it came within firing distance of American troops. U.S. confirmed an F-15 jet downed a pro-regime armed drone today after it displayed hostile intentions and advanced on coalition forces. The drone was shot down near at Tanf, close to the Syria-Iraq border, by the F-15E Strike Eagle jet around 12:30 this morning. The incident marks an escalation in the area where a base manned by coalition forces has been supporting an anti-ISIS Syrian rebel group. And a U.S. military official told AFP they were threatening our forces on the ground. Now, this is ratcheting up, like I said, tensions in the area. USA signals involvement in Syria could escalate. That's also from The Hill. The United States is inching closer to involvement in the Syrian civil war after U.S. forces shot down a Syrian fighter jet on Sunday. The incident is the fourth time in as many weeks that the United States has shot at pro-Syrian government forces, and it carries the potential for further escalation, particularly with Russia threatening to target U.S. aircraft that fly into parts of Syria. So even though Trump, this is again why I don't really understand why they think that somehow the idea of Russia collusion stands up, because clearly it doesn't, when Trump obviously has nothing more than the United States' best interests at heart. He doesn't care about the best interest of Russia, although he would like to come to a deal with them where everyone wins. But yet after he sent the bombs to destroy the air pad in Syria, now we've shot down a fighter jet. I mean, clearly he's not just looking out for Putin. Otherwise, these type of incidents wouldn't be happening. All right, I want to move quickly on here because we have some other things to get used to. Another thing that was very interesting this week, George Clooney cashed out in the Trump era. He's constantly talking about how bad Trump is. But yet he managed to sell his tequila business for $233 million. Very interesting there. Also, Johnny Depp joking about the Trump being assassinated. I mean, this guy is a drug addict. And I couldn't believe what I heard from him, where he came out and said, when was the last time an actor assassinated a president? That happened on Friday, but it came back very quickly because now he's already apologized for it very soon after it, because the media backlash. I mean, he sounded like he was drunk when he even said it. All right, I've got just a couple of more articles here to go over. Pence meets the Koch brothers. A lot of articles out of the Hill today. A lot of talk been coming from the left about Trump being ousted and being replaced by Pence. President Pence. That's been ringing on the mouths of the left basically all week. And now we see Vice President Pence held an unannounced meeting with conservative political activist Charles Koch on Friday, the day before the Koch brothers network kicks off a donor meeting in Colorado Springs. Pence, in town to headline a banquet celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Christian conservative group Focus on the Family, sat down with the chairman and chief executive of Koch Industries, along with key members of the team. The meeting was not on the vice president's schedule, released by the White House late Thursday. A spokesman for the vice president's office denied to The Hill earlier Friday that Pence would be meeting with the Koch brothers network. The spokesman did not respond to requests for comment late Friday. James Davis, a spokesman for the Koch brothers network, said Pence and Charles Koch discussed issues ranging from tax reform to a measure reforming the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, which President Trump signed on Friday. The meeting lasted 50 minutes, Davis said. Now, there's been a lot of meetings between Trump and some people that I didn't really, that I don't necessarily trust. There's been a lot of meetings going on with the Trump administration and individuals that I just simply don't understand. But this one especially, for me, is a little disconcerting. And I just want to quickly go over the 5 worst things the Koch brothers have done as we think about what this could mean. The oil spills that they've had their money in the oil business. In 2000, they were fined the largest amount yet imposed upon a company under federal law. The $30 million fine was paid to resolve claims related to more than 300 oil spills in over 6 states. And an additional $5 million was ordered to be spent on environmental projects. Very interesting. The Koch brothers also known to be anti-worker. They've spent more than $34 million on groups and organizations that work against workers' rights. The organizations have targeted key union efforts, such as fighting against the public sector union pay raises and arguing against unions having any political or organizing power. They're anti-healthcare. They financed the Tea Party's fights against healthcare reform through their Tea Party group, Americans for Prosperity. I don't necessarily disagree with this, but it was a big scandal at the time. They are also anti-immigration, which is another good thing. So a couple of check marks in the good pile, but then they have this issue here, foreclosures. The Koch fund tanks that push for foreclosures on working people's houses. The Koch-funded Reason Foundation has produced numerous reports saying that foreclosures should not be stopped. And the Koch-funded Mercatus Center also presented congressional testimony stating that the foreclosures should not be stopped and that there is no harm done to homeowners when their houses are foreclosed on. Also, untold millions. This is out of the Huffington Post, by the way. The Koch brothers' spending is structured such that it is difficult for the public to know the full range of their political influence. When the Koch supported Citizens United and other attempts to fight against campaign finance reform, this trend of lack of transparency is only getting worse. The spending numbers that we do not know are only the tip of the iceberg. So just a few things to think about there when you see reports of Pence meeting with the Koch brothers in Colorado. Very interesting, and more to come with this as we find out. This just came out today as we try to find out exactly what that means. Finishing up today, and I'm hurrying quickly along, could be that Trump gets one more Supreme Court nominee. The Supreme Court enters its final week of work before a long summer hiatus with action expected on the Trump administration's travel ban and a decision due in a separation of church and state case that arises from Missouri church playground. The biggest news of all, though, would be if Justice Anthony Kennedy were to use the court's last public session on Monday to possibly announce his retirement. To be sure, Kennedy has given no public sign that he will retire this year and give President Donald Trump his second high court pick in the first months of the administration. Kennedy's departure would allow conservatives to take firm control of the court, something we haven't really had in a while. But he does turn 81 next month and has been on the court for nearly 30 years. Several of his former law clerks have said they think he is contemplating stepping down in the next year or so. Him and his clerks were gathering over the weekend for a reunion. that was pushed up a year and helped spark talk that he might be leaving the court. I had so much news to go over, and I have so much more, but frankly, we've already gone over an hour, so unfortunately I'm going to have to call it here. You've been listening to the Sit and Spin radio show. I'm Nick O'Kelly. We do this here every Saturday night where we try to sit down and review the news from the previous week. Very interesting things have been coming out in the past weeks, and always so much to go over. It's hard to cover everything. But I hope you enjoy listening to the podcast, and we'll come back and listen to more. Same time, same place. Spreaker Web Radio. That's SPREAKER.com. Search for, of course, the Sit and Spin Radio Network. You can see it on YouTube. It's posted on Facebook. And whenever you can, of course, join in the conversation. I've now started going out on my shows with Donald Trump's weekly address. I think it's very important. He won't really do the fireside chats, but he does post a weekly address. Obama used to do this as well. But on YouTube, talking about what he's been trying to do, what he's accomplished in the past week, and so forth. So I've been trying to end my show with this address. I don't think enough people get to see this, and it's important that we, the American people, support Trump, understand what he's trying to do, and understand that he's under total attack from the left. They're disintegrating underneath themselves with their message about Russia and all falling through the cracks. And so now is the time that we band together as the American people, say to our congressmen and career politicians above us that we like Trump's message. We want him to be able to get to work. We care about jobs. I didn't even get to health care tonight. Health care bill is having a lot of problems. The GOP can't seem to come to any decisions. But we'll have to cover that at a later time when we have even some more information. Nevertheless, pray for your president and support him because he seriously does want to make America great again, at least in my opinion, hopefully yours as well. And here he is, Donald Trump, from June 23rd, giving his weekly address. And you can take a listen here. Have a great weekend.
Fellow Americans, millions of families across our nation are suffering under the disaster known as Obamacare. Traveling throughout our country over the last 2 years, I have met so many of these wonderful Americans, and I have never forgotten their stories. In Wisconsin, I recently met a proud veteran and his wife, Michael and Tammy Kushner. When they were forced onto Obamacare and the exchange in 2015, they thought they would be able to keep their doctor, but they couldn't. They thought they would be able to keep their plan, but they weren't allowed. They were told their premiums would go down, but instead they soared by 120% upward. It was one Obamacare lie after another. Today, the Kushners spend $1,400 a month on health insurance, nearly 1/4 of their entire net monthly income. On the same visit, I met another family, Robert and Sarah Stahl. Robert is a volunteer captain for his local fire department. After their Obamacare premiums nearly doubled, they needed extra money, and Sarah had no choice but to leave retirement to pay their bills. But this new income meant they were no longer eligible for the tax credit they had once received, and the federal government actually forced them to repay thousands and thousands of dollars. These families and so many others are victims of a catastrophic law that is wreaking havoc on our healthcare system and our families. Democrats in Congress created this calamity, and now, if we don't act, millions more Americans will be hurt by Obamacare's deepening death spiral. Americans were promised lower premiums, more choices, and better access. Instead, premiums have doubled nationwide, and insurers are still fleeing the market that Obamacare has nearly destroyed. Americans in nearly 1/3 of all counties have only one insurer to choose from on the exchanges, and many markets may soon have no insurers at all. It really is a disaster. The American people are calling out for relief, and my administration is determined to provide it. And we are working with Congress to get a bill to my desk so we can rescue Americans from this catastrophe. As families across the nation continue to suffer under this law, I only hope that Democrats in Congress will have the political courage to help fix what we know to be a catastrophic situation, a total disaster that they have created, to be part of the solution instead of obstructing, always obstructing change, blocking reform, and doubling down on Obamacare's failure. But no matter what, my administration will never stop fighting for you and for the healthcare system that you deserve. We'll get it done, even if we don't have any help from the Democrats. We'll get it done. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.